Hello everyone, I am Peppino here, and today I am starting a new series of Kerbal Space Program. I did a little test drive sort of thing, video for you guys a while back, but now I've actually bought the game, and so we can actually do something, and so I'm going to be doing this series about developing the space program for the Kerbals who live on planet Kerbin. We'll call this file videos, just so I remember. And career mode's not in yet, so we're going to do sandbox. But this is a really fun game. I would suggest you guys try it out. And the first goal we're going to have is just to put a satellite into orbit around planet Kerbin. So we'll take this here, and I'm going to put together this ship off camera, and I'll come back and explain everything in a second. Okay, so here we see our satellite. This is what's going to be orbiting the planet. And basically up here is all the technical mumbo jumbo, all the scientific instruments and stuff around the actual satellite, as well as enough stuff to generate plenty of electricity so we can always power the satellite forever. Then here we just have fuel to position the satellite, and if we ever want to bring it back down to Kerbin, we could. So this is going to be a good experimental satellite for us. The scientists and engineers down here are working very hard on it. So we have that. Now what we need to do is build the thing around the ship that is going to take the satellite up into orbit. So that's what I'm going to work on next. Okay, here it is, the final product. What I am calling the Kerbnik 1 instead of Sputnik. It is the Kerbnik because these are the Kerbals. And scientist there's giving it one last look, and he says it's good. So we are going to try and launch this thing. Hopefully it's going to be stable enough. It should be. But anyway, I know it may be a little bit overkill with how much thrust I have there. So we may have more fuel and stuff than we need, but that's way better than not having enough. And also it's going to help because I may just use this design in the future for more complicated missions, like putting satellites around other planets and stuff like that. So we have more fuel than we need now, but we may need it later. But we'll save future missions for the future and just hope that this one works now. So the Kerbal Space Program is ready to launch its first satellite in 3, 2, 1. Okay, so far so good. Hopefully you can hear me over the engines. Hopefully it's not too loud that way. And I am just gonna kind of sit back and let's watch this thing launch, and then I'll explain more after this once we are out in space trying to get a stable orbit. We'll speed up time a little bit here just to make it easier. Okay, let's take a look at our map. Alright, we're looking good so far. Let's try and stop the spinning if we can. Let's work to get a little bit of a tilt. Not too much. Just a bit right there. We may have to make it a bit more stable this will be fine so far. Alright, also, we're going to do that now. Turn this off. Now what I want to do is once I get out here to my apoapsis, which is the high point, what we're going to do is try and eventually be thrusting this way so that it gets a nice stable orbit around the planet, and we will have a satellite in low Kerbin orbit, which is what the goal was for our first mission and our first video. And then once we get good at putting satellites into orbit, maybe the Kerbals will be ready to try putting a Kerbal in orbit. I'll call him a person. I don't know what the technical term is actually. An astronaut. Putting an astronaut into orbit. So hopefully things will get a little more exciting in the future. But, alright, for now, I'm just gonna try and do this. Alright, let's burn the rest of this fuel, and you can see our orbit expanding there. Alright, so that section's out of fuel, so we'll detach. And then now we have this section. Let's get it back on target. Let's hope we can control this one a little easier. That first stage was very slow to control, and the spin, I can't seem to stop it. And that's making it much more difficult than it needs to be. Alright. Well, good enough. Because we're going to need the thrust here. And let's just hope that our SAS unit can keep us pointing in generally the right direction. The orbit of this doesn't matter too much as long as we get an orbit. So I'm not going to be real picky. It would be nice if we could control this a bit more. Alright. Now you see there our orbit's getting a little off. That's because we're not actually pointing the exact right direction. Not exactly where we want to be, at least. But that's fine. It doesn't actually matter too much. Like I said before, the only goal is to get something into orbit. And we know what changes need to be made to this design in the future. We need to make it a lot more stable and easy to control. Alright, so let's fully thrust there. And now it looks like we have stabilized, and we are going to set up a nice looking orbit here. Once this trajectory gets all the way around, that's when we'll have our orbit. One thing that I do want to do though is before that happens, I want to stop burning. So just before that happens here, we'll stop this, and we're going to detach this stage of the rocket. Oh, I just realized a problem with the design, but we'll fix that first. Alright, now we'll detach this stage of the rocket. And turn this on. And there we go. That's the part that's going to orbit Kerbin. We want those other 3 towers to fall back down, just because having tons of debris floating around, I have found from my other files, gets really annoying. You don't want to just have tons of debris floating around your planet, just because all those orbits will show up and get in the way when you're trying to do other missions and stuff like that. So now we can aim right there. Terrific. There is the Kerbnik 1 high above Kerbin. And this is the first object that the Kerbals have put into space. So this is a big accomplishment for them and for the space program. And it's always good to have a first successful mission to make sure that everyone in the public gets behind your space program. You don't want to be blowing everything up right away. Speed up time a little bit so that we can get closer to our apoapsis and then burn again. Alright. There, we're getting close. Now let's aim in the right direction and do another burn. Right there. See, there's the debris falling. That's where that's going to land. We, however, are close, I believe, to getting an orbit. And any second now. Right there. Alright. So we have an orbit now with our satellite. We'll bring that up to around, let's say, 100,000. And then we'll stop it. Alright. And now we have successfully got a satellite in orbit. I'll bring this up a little more. Let's do 125,000. Right there. And now we can speed time up until we get around to the other side, just to make sure this is going to be a stable orbit. And then when we do get to the other side, we can do a burn to bring our apoapsis down to closer to 125 as well, and that way we can just have a more stable orbit that's in closer to the planet the whole time around. Alright, this is getting pretty close. We can zoom in now as well. We don't need to be so far zoomed out. We're 3 minutes and 13 seconds away from where we need to burn. And so as soon as we get there, we'll bring our apoapsis down by thrusting in reverse. We'll turn on the engines here. And once we do that, we should have a stable orbit, and then we can call this mission a success. So we'll bring this down closer to 125. Alright, just getting there. And now we gotta catch up to our periapsis again. Right there. Let's aim it the right way again. Just like that. and do another burn. Good enough. That's a very, very close to exactly stable orbit. 124,777 by 125,069. That's good enough for me. And so now, let's take a minute to admire the Kerbnik 1 orbiting Kerbin, and we'll warp it to higher speeds so we can just see a couple rotations. So there it is, our home planet being viewed from outer space. So that's pretty cool for a first mission, and hopefully, now that we were successful with that, we can make the necessary changes to the Kerbnik satellite launching mechanism, and we will launch our next satellite in the next episode. So thank you guys for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed it, and will give a thumbs up or a subscription if you haven't already. And I will see you guys next time. Thanks for watching.